people expect you to give them more help with their bills, with their rising costs. Rishi Sunak, any more help though?
So when we get in, we'll have to see what happens to energy bills. I think people have seen from me over the past couple of years that as the situation changes on the ground, I'm always going to respond to support people through it. But that's just about the short term. I think it's also worth us taking a moment to think, well, how do we solve this problem in the long term? And I think there's a couple of things we can do. The first is to help people with energy efficiency. And watching whose homes I think we can better insulate. We know that there are millions of homes.
Absolutely.
And we need more homegrown energy here at home.
I would act immediately. I understand that people here, people around the country are struggling with some of the worst cost of living problems that we've had for generations. It's hard to pay for fuel. It's hard to pay for food. I would reverse the increase in national insurance. So I'd reverse that increase in national insurance. I'd also have a temporary moratorium on the green energy levy, which would help cut money from fuel bills. That was very important. That would come in straight away.
Well, look, we all took a decision to protect the economy and support the NHS through COVID. And of course, we all knew there was a bill that we needed to pay for that. So the question is, should we pay that bill ourselves? Or do we put it on the country's credit card and pass the tab to our children and grandchildren to take care of? Now, I don't think that's right. I don't think it's responsible, and it's certainly not conservative, and that's what I wouldn't do as Prime Minister.
Not responsible, Liz Truss.
Under my plans, we would start paying down the debt in 3 years' time. So I'm not putting it on the never, never. I would start paying it down in 3 years.
Liz, that's simply not right. You promised almost £40 billion of unfunded tax cuts, £40 billion more borrowing. That is the country's credit card. It's our children and grandchildren, everyone here's kids, that we're going to have to pick up the tab for that.
Rishi, that is not true.
There's nothing conservative about doing
Under my plans, we would start paying down the debt in 3 years' time.
And we need to get a grip of inflation, and if we don't do that now, it's going to cost all of you and everybody watching at home far more in the long run. And you know what? Liz, your plans, your own economic advisor has said that that would lead to mortgage rates, interest rates going up to 7%. Can you imagine what that's going to do for everyone here and everyone watching? That's thousands of pounds on their mortgage bill. It's going to tip millions of people into misery. Take on this, right? So we remember the 80s and the 90s, and you know what the problem is?
I don't believe this negative, declinist language.
It's your own economic advisor, Liz. It's not mine. It's your own advisor.
I have lots of economists that are backing my plans. Everybody thinks that putting up taxes at this moment is going to hurt the economy.
Do you accept that?
Absolutely.
This is the problem with your plan. It's going to push people into
please let Liz Truss answer. Please let her answer.
When inflation gets out of control, interest rates go up,
Rishi
that's
Sunak,
what happens.
please let Liz Truss answer.
I don't accept those points. Any economist knows that taxes are completely different from interest rates. Interest rates are set by the Independent Bank of England. We know that inflation is forecast to fall next year. What I'm talking about with my plans is not raising taxes. There is no evidence at all that not raising taxes is inflationary.
In 3 countries, do you know what mortgage rates are in the US at the moment? Do you want to use them as an example? Their mortgage rates are almost 50% higher than mortgage rates in this country because they're borrowing so much.
I'm sorry, this is scaremongering.
Canada actually has
Project Fear.
Liz, I remember the referendum campaign. I remember the referendum campaign, and there were only one of us who was on the side of Remain and Project Fear, and it was you, not me.
Okay.
And you talk
maybe
about
I've learnt from that.
We talk about this. It was.
We absolutely should be cracking down on those types of companies, and we should be limiting the amount of technology exports we do to authoritarian regimes. I don't think it's inevitable that China will be the biggest economy in the world. In fact, we've been enabling that to happen. But I'm very clear, after the appalling abuses in Xinjiang, after the terrible actions on Hong Kong, and the most recent outrage, which is China working with Russia and essentially backing them in the appalling war in Ukraine, we have to take a tougher stance. We have to learn from the mistakes we made of Europe becoming dependent on Russian oil and gas. We cannot allow that to happen with China. And freedom is a price worth paying.
Okay, the war there. I'm interested in how far you would be prepared to go on that issue. There are decisions that you...
I am not prepared for the United Kingdom to become directly involved in the conflict. We have done as much as we can. We were the first European country to send weapons to Ukraine, We've put the toughest possible sanctions on Russia. We're actually helping with areas like maritime insurance on helping get that grain out of Odessa, and an agreement has been reached. But Ukraine is not a NATO country.
Okay.
And I think it would be wrong to directly deploy our troops and our resources
Rishi
in
Sunak,
Ukraine.
would you had record temperatures here in the United Kingdom last week? It was more than 40 degrees Celsius for the first time.
Better energy efficiency is an obvious thing we can do. The benefit of that is it actually saves us money as well, which is fantastic. And that's why I said government should do more on that. The second one is recycling. And that is the thing that in our house we are obsessive about. I know it's a pain, you need lots of bins, but it is something that is very good for the environment. And I think the third thing I would say is we've got to focus on innovation, because we're going to solve this problem if we, doing the amazing British thing that we always do, our researchers, inventors, companies, creating the solutions to the problems of the 21st century.
But what I don't want to see is ordinary households penalised by our net zero target. So I would lift the green energy levy and cut money from people's fuel bills whilst looking for better ways to deliver our net zero. I don't have any issue with how expensive anybody else's clothes are. And actually, I think Rishi is a very finely dressed person, and I'm a great admirer of his dress sense. So that is not something that I would, and I don't know how she knows where I got my earrings, to be perfectly frank about it.